All right, folks, I'm going to go over the Camaro today on what I did to get rid of the TBI system and go to a carburetor on these, late 80s, early 90s. I think really the only thing that the computer controls is the fuel injection system. Everything else is still pretty much standard old school. So if you want to convert from a TBI to a carburetor, it's not that difficult. There are a few things that you need to do because obviously you got a fuel pump in the tank. You'll have to get a pressure regulator for that. And I just mounted mine right here on the sidewall. Now, when you get one for this, they got two different kinds. They just got an in and an out, but you have to get one with a return to go back to the tank. Now, I just used the factory where the fuel comes in to the filter and then goes out to the carb and then the return back to the tank. So that wasn't too bad. That was pretty easy. And the fuel pressure, on these 90s, late 80s and 90s, the fuel pressure, the pump in the tank only produces, 13 to 15, 16 pounds, I think. But your carburetor obviously is only up good to 7 or 8 pounds. So you have to get one where your fuel pressure is right. And if you got a little bit newer car with a multi-port fuel injection, it produces a lot more PSI. You'll probably have to get a different pump, you're probably going to run into a bunch of different stuff. But as for this model, and then I put a fuel pressure regulator on it, so I can see what I've got going into the carburetor. So that pretty much sums up the fuel system. It's not too bad, pretty easy, pretty straightforward. Just got to get you a regulator and then run you a fuel pump gauge so you can see what's going into the carb. And as far as the electrical system, it wasn't bad at all. I took all the wiring, exposed it, took the covering, that plastic covering off. I'm going to get rid of this AC system. I ran out of time last winter and I wanted to get it on the road. But that's why this is a good thing. I drive this thing a lot, so I work on it, drive it. If you're not parking it for full restoration and you want to do stuff on the weekend, this could probably be done on the weekend. It took me all winter. That's because I pulled the engine out. I got the new Wyand Street Warrior intake and 650 Holly, and I went through the top end. I put a bigger cam in it, roller cam in it. So I did a little bit more, but if you're just wanting to convert your TBI to carburetor, I think this could be done in a good long weekend. So anyway, I exposed all the wires, and really all I did is everything that had to do with fuel injection, your map sensor, your throttle positioning sensor, your injector wires, your mass airflow sensor, anything that has to do with the fuel injection to make that fuel injection work. I rolled it up and I just tucked it right down into this fender, right down there, and hit it. And then I left everything else out, things I need for my starter, alternator, temperature sensor, distributor. Distributor was a little different. You got to go to HEI distributor. You can't use the typical distributor you had, so you had to go in there and you've had to find your power wire to your distributor and your tack, and you had to get them hooked up in there. I don't know if you can see it down there or not, but you had to get them. You had to get your power to your distributor and your tack. And you had to get them wired in. And that's all you really needed to do for the distributor. So, and when I got this Holley carburetor put on there, what I did is, in order to get, this has a 700R4 transmission, so you have to get the special adapter right here that will be the right distance for your transmission and your throttle, because if you try to set this up and your transmission's you know, if your TV cable isn't set right, it's going to mess your whole transmission up. So if you get a Holley sells this little bracket right here that bolts on to where your transmission cable hooks to, and then you got your other bracket right here hooks to your Holley, and to where your transmission cable goes to and your throttle cable. It's a whole setup there, and it works out pretty well. And that way you can get your Holley. And I'm sure if you go with an Edelbrock, there'll be different systems and different setups, you know, or whatnot. But there really wasn't that much to it, to be honest with you. I mean, you're going to have to swap out your intake, get you a carburetor, get you an HEI distributor, then you run your plug wires, and you really don't even have to go through. I mean, obviously you'd want to make it clean and look nice, but to expose all that wiring, separate everything, and tuck it in out of the way, and just leave what you need, like your alternator, like I said, starter, temperature sensor, your RPM, and your power to your distributor. It's pretty straightforward and old school. I mean, the only thing that the computer controls in this car is the VAS system, and now I was concerned about that because I didn't know after taking all of this fuel injection stuff off if it was going to affect that VAT system or not, and it didn't. So I was pretty surprised because the anti-theft system will, you know, if it feels like that, if that key in it faults out, or if your fuel inject, whatever, I didn't know if it was going to shut off the fuel pump or the power to the starter or the distributor, but it didn't. It worked out pretty well. And the fuel system worked out pretty well. That fuel filter I got from Summit. I got most of this stuff from Summit, actually. The wine intake, I got a 650 Holley on there, which, to be honest with you, it's too small for this. I got to upgrade. I got to get a 750 put on there because I think that, kind of like NASCAR, it's too small of a carburetor. It's restricting the engine. I think this engine has a lot more to give. But then I'm going to get rid of the air conditioner compressor, put a whole new pulley system on there. I'm going to get rid of the AC unit here and just leave my heater there for defrost and stuff and whatnot. But it's not that hard to do. Now, as far as your vent system, here I've seen guys that would, that vent that comes up from the tank, they'll just put like a little filter on it. You know what I mean? And take that whole thing out, give it a nice clean look down there. But I didn't fool with it right at the time. I just stuck it back on there, and this right here, I just plugged it off. It goes up to the intake of the old TBI, and it recirculates into the fuel system. But I didn't fool with it. That's something I'll probably take out a little bit later once I get in it, because I'm going to put a new radiator in this. Like I said, new pulley system, new alternator, get rid of the AC system, and clean it up a little bit. But I just wanted to do a short video to tell you that, you know, if you're wanting to get rid of your TBI and you're wanting to go to your carburetor, it's not that difficult. You can do it in a weekend. Get you a 4-barrel intake. I got dual plenum intake. I got the Holley carburetor. You need them brackets to get the you know, transmission and throttle set up properly on it. And then your electrical, you know, get all that, anything that has to do with your fuel injection. Like I said, your throttle positioning sensor, your fuel injections itself, your MAP sensor, mass airflow sensor, all that stuff, tuck it away. And just wire this thing straight up like old school. You know, you basically just got your starter, alternator, distributor. It didn't affect any of my gauges. Of course, on my gauges, my surface engine light comes on because it's not detecting anything with fuel injection. So I'll get into the dash and disable that. Or I've seen a video where somebody got into the computer system and disabled it. But, you know, if you want to go that far, that's fine. But it seems a little bit of a hassle. That's really about it. Wasn't too difficult. If this helped you guys out, hit like, subscribe. I'm going to do a lot more videos on this. Like I said, this winter, I'm going to do some step-by-step videos on the body work. I'm going to paint this thing black, silver. I bought this off a guy, and it's had some things in it, like right here, you know. And this car is pretty much rust-free. I think there's a little bit of rust back here It's not on the outside. It may be covered up by the ground effect right there. But when I was doing some sound deadening on the inside there, where the spare tire went, I seen it. And there's a dent right here in the door. I'm gonna do all this body work. I'm gonna get all these body lines lined up. A little bit of rust right there starting to show up. This car's in good shape. So if you want to learn about some body work and stuff, keep watching it. I'm going to be doing some stuff. I'm going to do some rear end things and swap out the rear end, get rid of the 7.5, try to get an 8.5 in it. That'll withstand the horsepower of the engine. And paint, body work. I'm going to do interior later, maybe next year, if not sooner. So hit like and subscribe. Let me know what you guys think. Thanks for watching.